much for joining us tonight on Therapy Thursday. I am Allison Carver, and welcome to my kitchen. I am your food therapist, which means I do cooking therapy. It's my own little creation of combining cooking recipes with therapy to help you fix your problems. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you to Manja TV for allowing me to be a part of their Therapy Thursday. I'm so excited. So tonight is my first installment of my discussion on trust. For this whole month of February, I'm going to be talking about trust and why it's so important in your relationship, one, and I'm going to be giving you the recipe to fix the trust if you're having some issues in your relationship that you can do at home. All of my recipes are really simple, they're fun, they're interactive, and they're meant to be that way so that you can practice the skills that you need to do in the kitchen with your partner anytime you need to, so that then you can take those skills outside the kitchen and fix your relationship in a totally different way. That's what cooking therapy is, and that's just why I love it. So tonight I'm going to be doing my recipe for chicken lo mein, and like I said, talking about trust. So let me tell you a little about trust. So since I am a food therapist, right, I am a therapist and a chef, so let me give you my therapist stuff first, and then we'll launch into the chefy part of the cooking. So trust is one of those things that is so vital to your relationship. I know I said that last week about communication, and it's true. Communication is also really, really important, but trust is one of those things that you just have to have. Like, there's no half having trust, right? Like, either you have it or you don't. And I believe firmly, strongly, that trust is one of those things that both people have to contribute to in the relationship. So it's not just one person all the time, right? You both have to actively be contributing to the trust. And like I like to tell my clients, and I want to share this with you, is I believe firmly in something called a trust bucket. This is my own little term, and I want you to imagine an actual literal bucket, okay? And each day I want both of you to be putting little things into the bucket because you want to keep your bucket full. When you have a full trust bucket, that's really good. That means your relationship is strong and healthy and happy, and that you ultimately trust each other, right? So if, God forbid, something were to happen where the trust gets, altered, or, there's something that happens where there's this huge deceit or a breach in that trust where, God forbid, there was an affair that happened, or, I don't know, something happened with your finances and you don't share it with your partner, that's really bad. And if your trust bucket is full, it'll be easier for you to bounce back from something that dire than if you, didn't have your trust bucket as full, then it's harder to bounce back. Does that make sense? I think that you need to be, contributing to this bucket every single day. I know I said that, I just want to say it again. I want you to remember that. You have to contribute to it every single day. And that's what's so great about this recipe. You can make this whenever you want, and by doing it, you will be contributing to your trust bucket. So one more thing I want to say about trust, and then we're going to start cooking. So you might be asking yourself, okay, I get it, trust bucket. I hear you loud and clear. How do I, put something into my trust bucket? What do I need to do? Okay, so as a partner, you need to be reliable. You need to be predictable. I know you're thinking, okay, I always hear that being predictable is a bad thing. Well, when it comes to trust, predictability is key. You have to be predictable. So, or not, just take that out of your mind that being predictable is bad. Be reliable, be predictable, and just, don't be shady. Just keep it real. If your partner wants to look at your phone for something, let them look at your phone. Don't be all, this is my phone, like you can't look at it. I need to have my personal space. That kind of stuff, that behavior isn't really open and honest, and it just makes you look defensive and shady, quite frankly. So if you are able to be more open and just, willing to share and just be less defensive, all of that is really, really good for keeping the trust levels up. Okay, does that make sense? If you guys have questions during this episode, please feel free to write them. While I'm doing some cooking, I'm going to look at your questions and take a minute to answer them because I want to know what you guys think about this. Okay, so that's what I mean about trust bucket. So when you make this chicken lo mein, what's so great about it is that you're going to be trusting your partner in the most fundamental way possible. And when I say that is that you are actually going to be blindfolded while you make this dish. Yep, you heard that right, blindfolded. So your partner is actually going to be your actual eyes, ears, and hands while you make this dish. Now, I know this seems really dramatic and probably stupid to some of you, but trust me, this really, really works. And think of it kind of like those, those work retreats you have to go on sometimes for team building, and they make you do that trust fall. You know what I'm talking about? And you have to like lean back. It's like shoving you into this environment where you have to trust somebody like that. This recipe is the exact same way. It's going to force you to trust your partner in a different way because you're actually going to be blindfolded. You won't be able to see a thing. And like you're going to be cooking chicken blindfolded. So you have to be open and trust that your partner is not going to let you get burned and that they're going to like walk you through the recipe in the correct way. Okay? So for this chicken lo mein recipe, it's got 4 basic steps. Since there's 2 of you, I want person 1 and person 2 to decide, first of all, who's going to be person 1 and person 2. And then person 1 is going to be blindfolded for the first 2 steps, and then you're going to switch, and person 2 will be blindfolded during the last 2 steps. So since it's just me in the kitchen tonight, I don't have my partner with me. I'm not going to be blindfolded, but I'm going to walk through the recipe to show you how to do it. So the first part of this is you're going to actually make the sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix the sauce. And while I'm doing this, I want you guys to start talking, and I want to hear about maybe some trust stuff you've got going on in your relationship, or if you think that your partner would be able to guide you safely through this recipe. I want to hear your thoughts about it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start. Oh, and another thing, actually, real quick, I love making this dish because when you buy the ingredients, I mean, look at this. This is a 9.5-ounce jar of hoisin sauce. This recipe only calls for like 2 tablespoons. You'll have this sauce forever. So you'll always have these ingredients in your pantry ready to go. So if you feel like you need to trust your partner, you will have the ingredients available to you. Okay, so the first thing here is, let's see, 3 tablespoons of this. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 tablespoons in a bowl. Now remember, when you're doing this, you're going to be blindfolded. All right, 1, 2, 3. The next recipe, the next ingredient here is a 1/4 cup of chicken broth. So I'm going to add this right to the sauce. Going to dump it right in. But before I do that, there's actually cornstarch in this recipe. And so here, let me put this down. So cornstarch is a thickening agent, right? So you always use this when you're making sauces because it helps thicken it up and it's not so runny. But the thing about cornstarch is you can't just dump it in. You got to mix it with some liquid so that you don't get clumps. That's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and add the cornstarch in with my chicken broth, and that way it'll get nice and moist and it won't get all clumpy. So I'm going to dump this in. Of course, I put too much in. Can you see that? Yeah, just going to mix this up real good. There. It's going to look like that. Kind of like a little slurry, like they call it. All right, going to mix that right in. And then, let's see, it calls for 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And we have this link for the blog where the recipe is located. So if you're not following this completely, don't worry about it. I got you covered. All right, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. You can see I'm reading my recipe right there. Okay, let's see, 2 teaspoons. I love the sesame oil. Oh my God. It's a little bit expensive, but like I said, once you buy this jar, you'll have it forever, and it's amazing. I love sesame oil. All right, 1 teaspoon of that. Okay, so that's your sauce, right? So the first part of this is you're going to make the sauce. Oh, I forgot to mention this, actually. I'm all over the place tonight. So for the sake of time, I actually pre-cooked my chicken and I pre-cooked my noodles. But when you're making this recipe with your partner, don't do either of those things because all of that is included in the recipe, okay? So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to heat up my pan here to a medium-high heat, and I'm going to cook my chicken, right? I'm going to add my cooked chicken already here. Now, when I sauteed this chicken, I added some fresh ginger and some fresh garlic to it, and it smelled like heaven in here. All right, so here's my chicken. All right, and then to this, I'm going to add my sliced carrots. You guys see this? My sliced mushrooms. I love how colorful this dish is too. I love it. I love it. Have you guys ever made chicken lo mein before? Once you make this, you're never going to order takeout again, I promise. Sugar snap peas. And I have a half of a yellow onion that I just roughly diced up. Now, if you don't like any of these, you don't put them in. If you'd rather have, I don't know, zucchini or red onion or something else, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. All right, so this is going to have to saute for a few minutes. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to read some questions that you guys have for me. What are some trust things examples? Okay, small trust things. Oh, to fill the bucket. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay, so a small trust thing to do to fill the bucket would be always following through on your promises, which might sound stupid and small, but this is huge. So even if you've been married 10, 20 years, it's really, really important to follow through on your promises. No matter how big or how small those promises are. If you say you're stopping, to pick up milk after work, stop and pick up the milk. Don't come home and be like, oh, I forgot, sorry. That doesn't make you seem very trustworthy. What if both people are clueless in the kitchen? So true, right? My recipes are designed to be very, very simple. I do that on purpose, so any cooking level can do this. I'm not cooking serious, major, fancy dishes here, and that's designed, like I said, on purpose, because I want you to focus more on the process of cooking it and the process of doing it together. So what's great about cooking therapy is you can do it, and you're doing it together, and who cares if you screw it up? Who cares? You still had the process, you still had the experience of doing it together, and that's really what matters. So it really doesn't matter if both people are clueless. And if you totally are clueless, just stop doing the recipe. But we won't get to that, I promise. One of the reasons I love cooking therapy so much is that, as a therapist, people come to my office, they would come for an hour and we would sit down and we would talk, but I would only see them an hour out of their entire week, which really isn't enough time to really get to the root and really help fix their problems. And that's why I become a therapist. I want to help people. And I love cooking. I love cooking. I find such solace in it. It helps me relax, helps me unwind. And once I've thought about that in a different way, I was like, I can help my clients the same way by teaching them to use cooking as a way to find that relief for their problems. And what I love about it while doing this with my clients is that I learned something really cool about it. So do you know when you go to the gym and you do a really, really hard exercise? I'm assuming you go to the gym, right? We all kind of do. But let's just say, for instance, you go to the gym, you have a really, really hard workout, you're sweating like crazy, you leave it all in the gym, right? You go home and you experience something called afterburn. And what that means is that your body is still processing that experience, and you're still, burning calories, and your body's still recovering from that workout. Cooking therapy is the same way, and I love that. You make this recipe, you're with your partner, you're doing it, you're in the motions, you sit down, you eat the meal together, and you're still having that afterburn. You're still experiencing the change in your relationship, and that's what I love about it. The afterburn of cooking therapy is when your relationship changes and when it gets better, and that's the whole reason that you do this. And I love it. I love that about it. All right, now to this, I'm going to add my noodles that I have pre-cooked. These are lo mein noodles that I actually bought at the grocery store, but you can use regular spaghetti noodles if you don't have those. All right, I'm going to turn this down to medium-low heat. It's a little tricky doing this with my microwave right here. All right. Now, once you add the noodles, you're going to add your sauce. Now, remember, you guys are blindfolded while you're doing this. So I know that this seems really easy, but this is something that's a little bit tricky. I love doing this recipe with clients because they always look at me like I'm crazy when I'm like, yeah, you're going to be blindfolded. And they're like, what do you mean I'm cooking chicken blindfolded? It's not as easy as it sounds. But I love it because it forces you to trust your partner. All right, so I'm going to dump this sauce right into this. It's nice and thick. There we go. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you could smell this. And give this a nice little mix. When do you switch the blindfold? That's a great question. So you're going to switch the blindfold after step 2. So when you go ahead and you add the noodles, or excuse me, when you cook the noodles and then you add them in, that's when you're going to switch. There's 4 main steps to this recipe: making the sauce, sauteing the vegetables, and cooking the chicken, cooking the noodles, and then mixing it all in. So we're actually at step 4 right now. It's a great question. It's so fresh. I know. I love it. All right. So here we go. Got this all Mix together, and then this is going to cook for about 3 to 4 more minutes because you want the sauce to really come together and, you know, moisten all of the different noodles and components to this dish. So again, I love this recipe because it forces you to trust each other in a completely different way. It's fun, it's interactive, and even if, like, let me say this too, even if you haven't, God forbid, had an affair, right? Your relationship is pretty good, it's pretty normal, it's going along really well. Still do this. It's nice to feel that you can trust your partner, even if things are going really great. Isn't it great to know you can rely on them to, you know, keep you from setting the kitchen on fire if you're cooking chicken or cooking noodles or doing that? It's a great way to just boost and fill that bucket even when things are great. And also, conversely, if things aren't great, start here. Start doing this so that you can know that, you know, your partner is reliable, they are predictable. You know, your goal of doing this is to make this recipe together. And so at the end of it, you can be happy and know that you did it together. And that's a huge win and a huge success for your relationship. It's awesome. Thank you so much. I had such a good time tonight. Please make this lo mein and let me know how it works out. I can't wait to hear. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.